Alright, it's time for an update and forecast on the Mosquito Fire burning in California. Reason I'm doing the update on this is it has picked up significantly in the last few hours. Not really a big surprise when you look at this imagery right here, all of the fuels in this area that are critically dry because of the drought. We also have that ongoing heat wave that I've been following all week long, and then just overall very dry conditions which are conducive to fire growth. Now just looking at it, notice we had some smoke coming off it in the morning, but then right now you can actually start to see some of that pyrocumulus development, which tells you that there's a lot of air rising up, which means there's going to be air rushing in, and then that can lead to some spotting and just a critical rate of spread. So that's the view from the ground right there. We can also take a look at it from the sky. Key thing I want to point out here, you can see where it's the brightest, that's around the fire, but then you notice the head of the fire, which is shown right here, is where we're seeing the most activity, and right there it almost looks like there's two little spots as well, which is what I was just talking about. So to actually see where we are on the Mosquito Fire, it's this smoke that you see right there. That was earlier in the morning where we just had a little smoke coming off of it. Now we have that pyrocumulus development. You notice smoke where it has that whitish color popping up right about here, that's that pyrocumulus cloud, and then where it gets that darker color, that's where it's most likely getting into some of those heavier fuels, and you can see it's west of Lake Tahoe. Now if we actually want to get a better idea of where it is, and there's Lake Tahoe right there, zooming over to the west, we have the Mosquito Fire right here. Looks like there's Oxbow Reservoir on the southern edge of it, Mosquito Ridge Road to the right and going through it, and then zooming out a little bit, we have Michigan Bluff up above, and Forest Hill and Volcanoville to the west of the fire. Now when it comes to the Mosquito Fire, these numbers just got updated about a minute ago. Looks like we're at 2,000 acres right now, 0% containment, and there's new evacuation orders and warnings coming out. So with that, good place to go for that kind of information is the Watch Duty app. I put a link for that in the description of this video. You can also find this map. There's a link to it on the Inciweb page right there. And this one also just shows where those updated evacuation orders are. I usually don't dive into the evacuation orders in my videos because by the time you're watching this, the orders most likely will have changed just based on how rapidly this fire is spreading. Now when it comes to the fire, again, it's 2,000 acres, 0% containment. We're likely going to see that acreage go up every time updates come in just based on how fast it does appear to be going right now. And right here they say burning north of Oxbow Reservoir in brush and timber in very steep and inaccessible terrain. So few things to unpack right there. Where it's brush and timber, that means there's a lot of fuel. That kind of makes sense if you've ever started a campfire. First thing you're going to need is some fuel. Then you know it's easier to start your fire if that fuel is dry. Very dry conditions out there in California, especially right now. Over the last few days we've had that ongoing heat wave in California. And then inaccessible terrain, wherever it's inaccessible, that's going to be harder to get resources in. And then in steep terrain, that also promotes fire growth because the fire is able to heat up the fuels uphill and just get them ready to be burned, and that leads to some faster spread as well. Now I also wanted to just show what else was on this Inciweb page. This link is also in the description. Total personnel right now is 250. Expecting that to go up as we move forward with this fire. And then right here, looks like responding resources include 20 engines, 11 dozers, 2 water tenders, 3 crews, air attack, and tanker support. And when I was looking at the Watch Duty app, it looked like they had requested the very large air tankers. So we can also check up on that to see if those have actually come in. Now, the other thing that I want to point out here is weather concerns. We're going to take a really good look at the fire weather forecast in a minute here, but this basically sums it up. Weather conditions today, near record high temperatures, very low relative humidity, and critically low fuel moistures which will provide extreme burning conditions, which are expected to allow the fire to actively burn, and the potential for spotting. I'd say we can take out that word potential there now that we actually do have some confirmed spotting as of 11. And I'd imagine that has just picked up as we've continued to move forward on this. So let's just take a look at where this fire is one more time. I want to see just how far away it actually is from Tahoe. We can take our little ruler, put it on the fire, go to the very edge of Lake Tahoe, and it looks like it's about 34 miles to the west of Lake Tahoe. And then if we zoom in here, a few different things we can do on this. So the first one that is usually the most important because it ties into some of those evacuation orders we're looking at, clicking on structures, those yellow dots that pop up are the structures. Looks like Forestville, just want to confirm, yeah, Forestville and Hughes Mill, I think I'm pronouncing that right. That's what all those structures are right there to the west of it. Now, when we look at the wind direction, I believe we can actually turn that on here. Yeah, the wind direction seems to be pushing towards the northeast. And one other way to confirm that is actually looking at which way the smoke is going. Should be going mostly to the east and northeast. Pretty northerly direction earlier in the day, maybe a little northeasterly now. So what that tells me is that the fire direction, or the direction the fire is going to be moving, is most likely going to be in the direction that that smoke is moving and those winds are pushing it. So that would try to push it more towards these structures up towards the north and northeast of the fire. But it does look like as of right now we still have little distance there, but I would definitely imagine those are some of the key places where we have these evacuation orders in place. Now, something else we can do here is look at fire history. And this is, I think, where some of the bad news comes in on this one. We've had some fires this year where it's just surrounded by burn scars, and that has really diminished the growth because a lot of the fuels are already cleared out. Unfortunately, on this one, almost everywhere around this fire has not seen any fire history in recent history. And then also interesting to see these little clear cuts. I believe those are called clear cuts right there. That makes me think it's maybe some kind of tree plantations, which, I don't know, could be good news and bad news. Good news would be in those areas there's been a lot of trees that have cleared out, so that's less fuel for the fire. Bad news, maybe that means there's a lot of trees in this area, which will provide fuel for the fire. Something that maybe if you know more about, let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to talk about that in the next video. But the one burn scar we do see there is the 2006 Ralston. That's kind of pushing it for effectiveness of a burn scar. That's a pretty decent amount of time ago, so most likely we've had some fuels building back since then. But given the wind direction, we're expecting most of the growth of this fire to be towards this north and northeast where there are no burn scars in place. So that's kind of the fuel setup on this. We can also just confirm how many fuels are in this area looking at the shot right there. Just going to turn that on so we can see that power cumulus one more time. Yep, looks like a lot of dry fuels out there. The other big aspect, and this is kind of my area of expertise, is the weather. So just clicking on some of the close weather stations we can see here. Looks like max temperature today was 99 Fahrenheit. Probably still going to get a little bit warmer for the next hour. Typically, locations inland will hit their high temperatures around 4 o'clock. And then the other big one to look at is min relative humidity. That was 17%. I guess the one thing working in our favor is when it comes to winds, looks like max gust was 16 miles per hour, at least according to this station. And that's some of the good news, is that we at least don't have those 50 mile per hour winds that can sometimes lead to really active growth. But we certainly are checking all the other boxes there with max temperatures in the mid 90s to almost triple digits and those relative humidities in the teens. So if we look at the forecast, I clicked towards 5 p.m. And the forecast for the lat and longitude of where this fire is actually expecting it to get a little bit drier. Although you notice those winds don't seem to be going all that fast. Although with that I will say it's fast enough to lead to some spotting. And then also when you get all of that air rising up, the fire can actually lead to its own winds, because when all that air rises up, you can't just have a vacuum at the surface. Air is going to rush in there, and then that can lead to some erratic fire behavior as well. Now, so we know today, hot, dry, relatively windy. I'm interested to see what it's going to look like tomorrow. So let's just go to 4 p.m. tomorrow. Looks like another very hot day tomorrow in the mid-90s. Actually expecting it to be a little bit hotter than today. We had a little trough building into the Pacific Northwest today that dropped our temperatures down just a couple degrees, but then that's going to move off and we're actually going to increase in temperature tomorrow. Winds look like they're fairly similar, around 25 miles per hour, but coming from maybe a more westerly direction, which will try to push that fire to the east tomorrow. And then when it comes to that relative humidity, probably don't even need to check it, but yeah, we're going to be in the low teens once again. So expecting this activity to continue over the next few hours and actually maybe pick up as it gets a little bit warmer over the next hour, which means it'll also likely get a little bit drier. And then expecting actually even more activity tomorrow, as it's forecast to be even warmer and even drier. Now, one other thing that we can do here is look this. I was about to say it, but this link almost never works for some reason whenever I try to show it during the live videos. Try this one. Yeah, we can see right there, if you look very close, that's the Mosquito Fire right there. Shows that smoke coming off. Looks like we also have some fires down in Southern California. I think I actually will try to cover those next, because it looks like this, when it comes to the smoke forecast, it's actually predicting more smoke coming off of those fires. So going to hopefully do another update on that one. But then just finally, just want to look at that air quality throughout the day today. Looks like we are starting to get back into that map of California where we have some of that unhealthy air quality showing up. We had a pretty great run there. It was one of the best Augusts that I can remember in the last few years when it comes to clear skies for the majority of the state of California. But looks like as temperatures are warming up, things are drying out, those fires are starting to pick up as well. And we have that unhealthy air quality today. Tomorrow, it's not forecasted to be as bad, but big disclaimer there, or caveat, that's dependent on how active the fires are. I'm actually expecting them to be more active tomorrow because it's going to be hotter and drier. So actually expecting slightly poorer air quality throughout the day tomorrow. So hopefully this video was helpful. I'm going to hopefully do a few more videos on the wildfire updates over the next 1 or 2 hours. So if you want to stay tuned, you can subscribe to this channel, where I believe there's one called the Fairview Fire that I'm going to cover. Also want to maybe cover the heat wave. And then there's also a hurricane coming into Southern California that could bring some tropical impacts to California. My main concern with that will be lightning. So it could be interesting to take a look at that as well. So hopefully this video is helpful, and thanks for watching.